Hi everyone. I'm here to give the talk, what is a DevOps and how can I get one? When I ran this by my colleagues at work, I ran the title by. They particularly liked it, especially guys that are in the ops team. So hopefully it lives up to it. I also wanted to thank everybody who came. I understand there's something else going on later this evening you could be preparing for. This is one of my colleagues actually. He was posing for the AV Club. They were doing an ad for this Wampa rug that you can buy. It's only $160 and can be in your living room. He didn't get to keep it, but he wanted to frame the GIF of this somehow. I don't know. I was
It's a
gonna
good
do that.
loop.
Yeah, it is.
It's a really good loop.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So he's going to 2 showings tonight, so he couldn't take the picture from me. Anyway, yeah. So, thank you all for coming. This is me. I'm Joseph Caudle. On Twitter, I am at Joseph Caudle, no space, obviously. On GitHub and on the Slack channel for local variables, I am J Caudle. I am resident philosopher at DN Simple, teacher of people and computers, and fond of subtle distinctions. This whole talk is kind of a subtle distinction, so hopefully you like it. I do. DN Simple is where I work. I also do some mentoring on the side, but DN Simple, we really focus a lot on DNS, domain name management, registration, SSL certificates, just about anything you can do with a domain name. We don't have hosting. We get that question a lot. But we do hosted DNS, and we try to make it as awesome and simple as possible. You can find out more about us at dnsimple.com. We also, maybe you've seen these characters before. My kids call them DN Simple Friends. They're from a webcomic we put together called How DNS Works. You can find it at howdns.works. It's like 7 episodes, and I had my family read through it on Thanksgiving, and they were all amazed to finally know what it is that I do. My grandmother read it and loved it. Like, she just got a cell phone a couple years ago, so again, a smartphone. Like, it's finally, I don't know. She understood some of this that has troubled her for a while. Not that grandmothers are awesome. Like, trust me, we've got Admiral Hopper, right? Grace Hopper was an incredible engineer, and this could be anybody's grandmother probably. So, anyway, what is a DevOps, and how can I get one? I'm going to start out by playing a Jackanope card, because that's not the right way to ask this question. It's from Exploding Kittens. I don't know if anybody's seen this game. Oatmeal put it together. It's a really fun game. But what is a DevOps? How do we get one? It is not a thing, right? You cannot get one, okay? DevOps is not a lot of things. We're going to go through some things that DevOps is not, okay? So, first of all, DevOps is not something you can buy, all right? You cannot buy a product or a piece of software and then become DevOps, right? But we don't always buy our software, right? Sometimes we just install software, okay? So, it's not something to install, okay? It's not something that you're just going to have some drop-in replacement and automatically now you have the DevOps, okay? So, we're just going to go with buy, because really, even if you do just install some open source software, there's a monetary investment, okay? You're putting working time into it, or you're buying some hosting solution, right? All of these things are awesome hosting solutions, right? Heroku, you just do a git push, you got it, right? You could have the DevOps if you have Heroku as a hosting solution. It's possible, but that's not all that you need to have DevOps, right? AWS sometimes is considered synonymous with the DevOps, right? You want to add DevOps to your organization, just put it on AWS, right? Now you're running some Linux servers in the cloud, you're doing great. Azure, same thing, right? You've got your Windows server in the cloud, you have DevOps. I'm sorry to say it, but you don't, right? You can have a DevOps organization if you are racking and mounting servers yourself, okay? You can have a DevOps-minded organization if you are using Heroku. You can have a DevOps-minded organization maybe if you're running servers out of your basement, but you might want to talk about who your systems administrators are if they're just in some closet somewhere. But that said, you can have this DevOps mindset, all right? It's not something to buy. What else is it not? Oh, it's not just a solution to running your tests, okay? A lot of people think, okay, I'm adding continuous integration. Awesome, now I am a DevOps-minded person, right? Maybe you got to this because of other principles, okay? Adding Jenkins or Travis or CodeShip or somebody that's going to deploy your code automatically, right? These are all great things, but it does not give you DevOps, okay? This is not what we're looking for, okay? These are great things, right? In fact, we use Travis at work. We use some Heroku at work. We use all of these different things. We use AWS. We have hosted, managed servers that we use. I've visited the servers. It's really cool. We went to the Server Central place in Chicago. Really cool thing. Really cold, literally cold. But it was fun. We got to see the actual server. So you can have hardware that you can see and still have a DevOps mentality. DevOps is also not just a configuration management system. Okay, so Puppet is a great tool. Somebody mentioned Ansible. I think Chris named Chef. Right? We use Chef at work. Everybody's talking about Docker now, right? Sprinkle some Docker on your systems, and now you are DevOps. Sorry, you are not. Okay, you might be using the latest and greatest in technology, but you still might not be in this DevOps mentality. Okay. Okay. What else? DevOps is not someone to hire. Okay. Now, a little caveat. Okay. It is possible to get hired as a DevOps engineer, okay? But that does not guarantee that the organization is DevOps minded. It does not guarantee that you are approaching things with DevOps mentality. A lot of DevOps engineer positions are systems administrators, okay? That's generally what people mean when they say, we're hiring a DevOps engineer. It comes with a higher price tag for the organization, which is awesome for the DevOps engineer, but it is something that is more pervasive than that, right? You can't just hire some kid that knows it's a Unix system. Although, if you can save everybody from the dinosaurs while using Linux or Unix or whatever, by all means, please do. It's also not somebody who sits at a console that looks like this. It's possible that you could have something that looks like this, but you might not be doing a lot of work. So, it's not something to hire. It is possible that someone could be hired, but it's more likely that it would be someone at like a CTO level that would be hired that could bring DevOps to an organization. A single engineer is not going to be able to do it all at once. And even a CTO, if they come in and try to bring all of DevOps to a single organization, probably could use some more reading in what DevOps is, okay? DevOps is also not one size fits all, okay? The way that my company has a DevOps organization will probably not be the way that your company runs DevOps as part of their organization, okay? DevOps is something that needs to be custom fit to whatever situation, whatever product you're building, whatever sort of business needs you have. These are all part of approaching DevOps. Okay, but you all came here not to find out what DevOps is. You came out, what is a DevOps? And how can I get one? Well, let's talk about what DevOps is. Okay, DevOps is, DevOps is culture, not tools. Okay. When we talk about sort of having a DevOps approach to things, it's more about how we do our work. Okay, so in a lot of organizations, you'll find this strict separation between systems administrators and developers. and even a strict separation between technically minded people and sales or marketing or all of these things, okay? That is what DevOps is trying to address, these walls of separation, all right? I was talking to Joe in the back. I almost went to go find a picture of Ronald Reagan. Please tear down this wall, right? That's our goal. We want to tear down walls. That is DevOps, okay? DevOps is taking development on the one hand and operations on the other hand, often thought of as software development and systems operations, okay? But it could be, business development or business operations, and bringing all of these things under the same roof, okay? Having a shared understanding of how our business is going to succeed. Shared understanding of what industries we need to bring into our particular situation. How are we going to improve our processes and all of these things that make us a great company. Okay, that's your goal in bringing DevOps into your organization, right? It depends on what your flow chart is, right? You might look like Amazon, okay, where everything is segmented up and you can only talk through service-oriented architecture to the person above you, and then they have to have their messages go around. Could be Google, where you've got your two CEOs at the top or whatever, and everybody down at the bottom. You could Microsoft, they kind of mean Microsoft. No, Oracle, I don't think that's inaccurate. But I hope the legal team doesn't come after me for saying that. You probably can't see it on the back, but this says Oracle Legal Engineering. So anyway, flowchart, right? This is your org chart. Is what a really big part of the DevOps mindset, right? Who talks to whom? How do you talk to people in your organization? These are things that matter from a DevOps mindset, from a DevOps approach. You want to be having cross-cutting interests and the ability to, if you're building a new feature as a developer, you need to be able to find out from someone in operations whether this can even be deployed, right? Or if it is going to take years before the proper hardware software is available, or what sort of procurement process your organization has. All of these are essential to really tearing down that wall, right? I mean, you don't want to end up in a situation where developers are working on something and they've got this awesome new feature and they're ready to roll out Tumblr for cats. Wait, that is Tumblr. Facebook for cats. And you find out at the last minute that you can't run Clojure in production, and you built your whole thing out of Clojure, right? That is going to be a major bummer. It's going to make everybody in development hate everybody in systems administration, and then you're going to have constant fighting. It's Montagues and Capulets, right? Nobody's going to end up happy with that situation. Try to figure out what is the best way for everybody to interact. That is part of DevOps. Maybe you find out that you do have this parity of Microsoft's organization, and this can be helpful to have separation in certain cases, right? But generally speaking, the ability to find out who needs to talk to whom, how can you get things done, how can you make that happen better? This is a really interesting sort of graph from a system called the Kinetic Framework. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's by a guy named David Snowden. So when you do a search, you find Kinetic, Snowden comes up. It's not the other Snowden, it's this guy. It's really, really amazing. This is about how your work in your organization takes place, right? How do you react to various different situations? How do you approach a situation where there are complicated things going on and you don't really understand everything, but you can look into it, right? How do you figure out, how do you go from that situation, right? And then you sort of pass through maybe a sort of undecided, undeterminate space where you don't know what's going on. Maybe it becomes a little chaotic at times. How do you respond to that? These are all the sorts of, the ability to respond to the situations in which you find yourself, regardless of, expertise or interest, is a large part of a DevOps mindset. I'm not going to say that Cynefin is like the end-all be-all of DevOps. It's not. There's not really any end-all be-all of DevOps. But thinking about processes and reactions and how do I recover from failure, this is a major part of building an organization that is flexible and responsive. These are our goals, okay? Cynefin's a really neat thing to look into. I highly suggest it. There's some great talks on YouTube, but you might not want to use this sort of way of thinking about things. It's just a sort of a descriptive thing. It's not a proscriptive thing, okay? A lot of people, if you find somebody talking about a proscriptive Cynefin framework where, all right, you want to always end up in, a complex situation, they are probably not looking at the original authors, okay? It's how do I understand the situation and how do I approach what I need to do next. So, it is culture, not tools, okay? However, DevOps is also the automation of tedious things, okay? So this is something that if there's anything that people could easily confuse with DevOps and be really close to right, it's this fact, okay? And this is one of the things that sets a DevOps approach to business apart from anything like other business-minded sort of mentality and methodology, okay? It's finding things that I do a lot and making them much easier to deal with. It's finding things that need to happen reliably and making them happen reliably rather than, oh, well, we need to call Jane who will talk to Joe while they're building, this thing that Bill put together, right? You don't want that situation. You want to make things repeatable, okay? Sometimes people talk about infrastructure as code, okay? This is a big goal in the DevOps movement, is taking your system's infrastructure, making it into something that can be controlled with version control, right? Git or Subversion or whatever you use in your organization, right? You can have debates about which one would be a better DevOps-minded tool, right? We can talk about our tools and which ones fit in better. In fact, there's a great post, a great blog post that I read while preparing for this from the SysAdvent blog. So there's a lot of Advent calendars, right? The Perl Advent calendar sort of got it going, but SysAdvent is a really cool blog, and they're talking about some of the tools. This was the 2nd of December, they were talking about this. It was really neat. And so she went through and, examined Git and Subversion and different things. But the goal is to figure out what is it that we need to automate and how can we do it, right? But sometimes when you are automating, right, you run into this, okay? I am spending a lot of time doing this thing, and it's not reliable. I should write a program to automate it. Right? And so your theory is, okay, I'm going to put some time into it. This is XKCD. It's called automation. And you put your time into it, and then over time, once you finish, you're going to have all the time in the world to spend on more interesting things. Okay? In reality, often when we write our own automation tools, we start writing our code, and then we figure out, oh, well, this thing's broken, so we add some more work, and then, over time, it just keeps going and going and going, and then you never actually get to your task, okay? Well, fortunately, wait a second, I thought I said these weren't DevOps. Well, they're not, but fortunately, these people that are, devoting their entire business to this stuff, they're the people that don't have time for your task, okay? But you might be able to leverage the tools that they have built for you to get back to your task once you've got your processes automated. Okay? So, Puppet, Chef, Docker. How many people are familiar with these things? Just sort of curious. Okay, so Chef and Puppet are really kind of on par with sort of the same ideas of things. I know GitHub uses Puppet. A lot of people, I think Disney used Puppet for a while, but now they use Chef. We use Chef at being simple. Docker is sort of a hot new thing that's using a rather old technology. Well, it's not brand new to have containers in Linux, okay? This is something that Docker is saying, all right, we're going to containerize everything. We're going to put all of our systems into little containers. That's great. We're running some containers on Chef, okay? So it's possible to use different technologies with these different tools. The goal of all of these things, though, is to have some framework in which you put all of your automation scripts and things like that, right? Ansible is doing this, Salt Stack. There's so many tools. It's like JavaScript frameworks, but I don't think there's as many of automation tools. So we want to find something that helps you get your stuff automated and then lets you move back to whatever it was that you were spending time on previously. Okay? And that's where these things come in. Okay? These tools that you can analyze for the needs of your organization. Right? Chef, for example, is Ruby. Right? If you don't understand Ruby or don't want to learn Ruby or for whatever reason don't like Ruby, and there are a lot of people that don't like Ruby, especially people that write Ruby. Chef might not be the best option. Docker, a lot of shell scripting generally. Puppet, it's Python, right? I think. I've never used Puppet, but I started to try to learn it at one point because I heard we were going to use it at a job, and then I got there and we didn't. So, it's there's a lot of reasons why you might use one over the other. You might not want to use any of them and do your own deployment scripts, but watch out for that. Okay. Anyway, another thing to keep in mind: what am I gonna automate? Okay. What do I want to automate? This is another XKCD. This is a great chart, okay? This is one of the ones where it's like an actual, real information, right? It's not like the automation one. This is like how much time do you spend doing this thing each time you do it? How many times do you do it on a regular time span? And how much time can you invest over the next, 5 years before it's not worth it? Okay? So as an example, this is a fairly simple example, right? Running your test suite on your software, right? Okay, so hopefully you have a test suite on your software. If you don't, you should consider it. I don't know that I would say that it's necessary to have a test suite on your software and still be DevOps minded. Maybe you've got a great QA team. But regardless, I would still argue having software tests. You want to automate running those tests, right? You want to have that happen every time you make changes for the team, right? You might want to run your own test suite locally, right? But you can find one of these tools, okay? Jenkins, Travis, CodeShip, all of these different groups have put time together, right? They put a lot of their time into this, right? More than probably this, but they're making money or whatever on this, right? If you start your own Jenkins server, make sure you don't spend more time than this on the Jenkins server. You might want to consider doing something else, okay? Jenkins servers can take a lot of time. Travis is a great example, okay? How often do you think a team is going to be pushing code on some particular piece of software? We'll take a lazy estimate, five times a day, maybe, right? Okay, so this is like different branches of code. You want the tests to run every time. If you have a test suite that takes 5 minutes, you could spend 4 weeks over a period of 5 years and still get your time back. Well, Travis is really cool because you drop in like a one-liner on your one line of YAML, and then it just starts going. It's really cool. Obviously, you have to set up your tests. You have to be able to run them and all of this stuff. But pick things to start out with that are going to be an easy win, right? And then over time, you'll find more things, right? A lot of DevOps-minded people talk about automating themselves out of a job, okay? This is actually really a great idea, okay? A good goal. If you have things that you are doing that you think this could be easier, I could do this a different way and wouldn't have to do it as often, write a short script. That could be a great way to start introducing DevOps into your organization, okay? Share that script with people. That's a collaboration, right? The culture, sharing with other people. Okay, so we talked about what is a DevOps. Now, how can I get one? All right, how can I get one? You want to start small, okay? You don't, like I said, right? If your company is hiring a new CTO and they say, I'm bringing DevOps to this organization whether you want it or not, all right? Not a good sign. You need to start small. That's essential, okay? You want to pick little pieces. Where can I chip things off and make this a little bit easier? Make this sort of workflow happen faster or more efficiently, okay? These are things that we want to do, right? So maybe tomorrow, what can I do? Well, if there's something that I have that needs automating, right? Write the script, okay? Meet with somebody in a different team than your own that knows a little bit more about something than you do, and figure out a solution that will let you get something to production faster, okay? Find some procedure in your organization. That could be as small as, your 3 or 4 person team. It could be as large as like everybody in your company, depending on where you are on that org chart, right? How can I streamline something, right? But one thing, not all the things, one thing. Start with one thing. That's the biggest piece of advice, okay? Just start with a little thing. And then over time, maybe you'll get hooked and you'll like how nice it is now that I don't have to wait for, the QA team to get around to running all that big long test suite, right? Now it just happens, okay? Or maybe, obviously there are procurement issues with things like that, but figure out some little thing. Here's a good one. I use Tmux for doing my development, okay? I have a lot of different projects that I will do work on in Tmux. And all of those different projects, I have different ways that I want the windows set up. Tmux is like that crazy thing that you saw where the skull and all that stuff, except it doesn't have the skull going on. It's like just a bunch of blank text. It's very boring. But it does some cool things. There's a great Ruby gem called Tmuxinator that lets you define how I want my thing to happen just this one time. And then every time you are going into that project, you type a short little command, mux. I type mux d and simple. And all the stuff I need for the main d and simple app is up, ready to go, serving locally. It's awesome, right? I took like 10 minutes the first time I did it, and now it's like every day I type mux d and simple. Instead of spending the 10 minutes to get things together, it's like, all right, web server's local, I'm good to go, right? Look into something like that. How can I automate my IDE? How can I make things arranged just the way that I want them? And putting that little bit of time will make your life much easier and much happier, and then you'll be a happier person, and then that'll spread through your organization. You'll have an organization of happy people, okay? Bob Ross, right, is their goal, happy people. So, another thing you can do, go learn something, all right? You came to the talk. Thank you for coming to the talk. Hope this has helped you learn something. So you could go to talks. But the key is learn something unfamiliar, okay? Learn something that you don't understand, right? Take some time learning how to configure something that's running in production on a local VM, a virtual machine, okay? Download VirtualBox or Vagrant or something like that. Try to figure out how to make that work, right? You don't even have to actually make it work. Just figure out, like, how do I get a virtual machine running, right? This is a great first step, okay? And it can go a long way, right? Because you might find out, hey, I figured out how to virtualize my production database. Now I'm going to try to virtualize my production application, or the web server, right? The application server. And now, you can run your tests against that, right? Integration tests locally against what you have in production. And obviously there might still be some bugs that slip through, but it can help, okay? It can be a great automation win, okay, to have that. But even more importantly, you've learned something in the process, right? You've learned more about how your organization is running, what you do, okay? Listen to a DevOps podcast. I don't know how many of you listen to podcasts, but there's some great DevOps podcasts. There's one specifically about Chef called The Food Fight Show. if you get into the chef world, I'm going to warn you, it's impossible to Google for things because everything is about cooking, okay? I did a search today for chef logo without thinking, and the first thing that came up was like, oh, I want to put a logo on my chef's coat. Yes, well, you can buy a coat that says chef, and it has the chef logo. That wasn't what I was looking for. Warning, fair warning. Like, one of the main tools in chef is knife. Right? Virtualization, automated testing is done generally in test kitchen. Okay. Okay. So it's fun when you know what you're doing, but it can be really hard to get into it. But maybe listening to Food Fight Show, another food meme, right? Okay. They will give you links and things, and there's show notes. You can listen to these podcasts. There's another one called Arrested DevOps. There's always DevOps on the banana stand. That's like their motto, their tagline. They're good shows. Really, don't even need to listen to something about systems administration. Listen to something about business processes. Okay, figure out how management could be improved if you're at that level, or if your team is, organized in such a way that can matter. Figure out how your colleagues can, relate to one another better. These are all great things to listen to. There are great business podcasts out there. Find something, listen to it. There's a great opportunity. And finally, read a book or a blog, a whole blog. There's tons of blogs about this stuff, right? I mentioned the Sys Advent blog. The woman that wrote the post about analyzing tools is also writing a book that's being published by Safari and suitably has a yak on the cover. Because DevOps and systems administration is a lot of yak shading. If you haven't heard the phrase, you will soon when you start digging into this stuff. Okay. I think all of these things are really great ways to get started, okay? But really, you can just start learning something and you'll be on your way to having DevOps implemented in your organization. All that said, I don't have much more about the actual, the conceptual things regarding DevOps. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Yes.
So, is some aspects of it would be internally company making tools to help with their specific company for
yes. So this is a big deal, right? Being able to build tools that will make your whole process better. Okay. So if you're already building internal tools, awesome. Keep building them. Figure out how to make them better. Figure out how to deploy them more easily. Figure out how to test the changes to them. These are things that you can do, but keep sharing these tools. That's perfect, right? Build some internal tools. Yeah.
You have to have a company that's open to spending time on
that is a big part of it, and that's why I said to start small, right? If your company doesn't really foster this sort of an environment, often the best way to introduce this is from the grassroots level, right? If you have a really hostile management environment, then it can be tough. But these are things that if your team is amenable to it, just foster sort of this mentality in your own team, right? You don't have to get every single system running on content management and be able to throw away the AWS instance as soon as you're done with that version of the code and deploy a new one before you do that automatically gets put in the load balancer, and then that's not the only way. Remember, it's not one size fits all, okay? It might mean something very different for an organization where just a small team can get going. But the goal, obviously, would be that other people start noticing, hey, they're having a great productivity boost. What in the world is going on over there in that team? And then they ask you, and you say, oh, actually, we have the DevOps. And then they're going to say, I want the DevOps. How can I get it? Okay.
First it's free.
What was that?
First it's free.
That's right. So, that's a great question. even build individual tools, right? Tools that will help you. Team Exinator, I'm a big fan. Team Exinator. Yeah, orange.
Yeah. Are you a distributed team at DNS Simple?
We are a very distributed team in DN Simple. We now have two sets of two people that live in the same city. Okay. We have two sets of 3 people who live in the same country. So I am one of the people in the United States. We're pretty evenly split between North America and Europe. But so we have, this is another part of, right? Often you'll hear people from distributed teams talking about DevOps. And part of that is because of the mentality of focusing on how do we work best, right? And our goal is, in DN Simple, is you can work wherever, whenever you want. And it works for us. I don't know how it works for us. Maybe there's only 10 of us, so that might be a big part of it. And we all really care about the product. This is something that we're all really interested in. Like, I really enjoy reading the RFCs about like the various different parts of DNS or the advances in like DNSSEC or all these different conceptual things. Right? I like technical stuff, the books, and I'm enjoying giving this talk. These are all parts of it. But anyway, yeah, we're very distributed. 1 in France, 3 in Spain, 2 in Spain or in Madrid, 3 in the US, 2 are in Chicago, 1 in Canada, there's 2 in Italy now. So yeah, that's all of us. Time zones are fun when you're doing that. It works,
This, just to kind of go back to your previous point about small things, we had a change in our time reporting tool, and it came from above. We were purchased from another organization. We got their time tool, and
right.
I didn't think there was anything worse than ConnectWise until I saw this tool. Those who worked with ConnectWise know exactly what we're talking about. It's good. Well, so for your jobs, there was no search.
It would be worse.
Don't get me started on the many times the page reloads, like every action you do. So everybody was complaining about this, and I didn't have a huge problem because I reported to the same project all the time. But
right.
Somebody brought it up to me that people were having issues with it. Like, there's got to be a way we can fix this, and somebody had suggested a bookmarklet. Just even something small, like if you get like a couple hours at the end of a day because you got a story done on something or some task done early, tell your boss it took you the rest of the if they're hostile, just tell them it took you the rest of the afternoon. Do this thing, figure out how to import jQuery into a page and then tear apart the DOM and shove something in there. We converted the drop downs to searchable drop downs, and then just using our company's internal Slack, we were like, "Hey guys, we made this thing," and it was like wildfire. Within a couple days, it had made it like up back to the, but nobody got in trouble. They were actually like happy about it. I was like, "Oh God, please don't let this, don't let this be a crash and burn." But everybody was stoked about it,
Right.
And if you find a way to make people more productive in any way, shape, or form, your bosses will usually be really happy about it, unless you do something that violates some sort of security policy or something like that.
Or you take 6 months to build something you do once a day or something.
If you actually are making a net positive boost in productivity, the net total, it was me and another guy, we spent an afternoon, like 3.5 hours, I think, something like that, figuring out exactly how to, because the DOM, table-based layouts, that's all I'll say. It took us a couple hours to decipher how to do what we wanted to do and import the library we wanted. Oh, all of a sudden we had this working thing.
That's really cool.
So it's not automating, doing the crazy automating of spinning up the AWS server and putting it in the load balancer and all this.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. That's you're reminding me of something that I heard on another good podcast, Giant Robots Smashing into Other Giant Robots from Thoughtbot. is a sort of a very consultancy, and they do a lot of Rails. And so they this guy Ben Ornstein does interviews, and I heard him talk once about he uses Vim. He's a really heavy Vim user. He said he takes like 5 minutes each morning, just sort of goes through like what can I tweak about my setup in Vim to make things a little bit easier. And so, like, what have I found myself typing wrong, right? Rather than training himself to type the same word correctly, he just puts in a little thing that's like, okay, when I type this word, it actually is this word. And then you can do that, right? It's computers. You can do anything, almost. So do little things, like, a little JavaScript little thing, bookmark that makes your life easier, and you don't have to deal with some horrible time tracking software. You had a question.
So I hadn't heard of Travis before. I use Jenkins a lot.
Yeah.
Is it a better version of Jenkins?
So Travis is, okay. Travis, if you want to run it, you can. It's entirely open source.
Mhm.
I saw a really good talk about it once, and like the graph of all the different things that are in there was absolutely totally bonkers. Like, I have no idea how they keep it operating. But like basically everything in the system can fall down at the same time except for like the queue, and then it'll come back online. Okay. So you could deploy it, right? It will take you way more time to do that than it would to get a Jenkins server stood up. You can also pay them to do this stuff, or if you have open source software that you're like building and you have tests that you want to run on the open source software, they have a free version as well for that. We use the hosted, closed source one for work stuff. It's awesome. It's really nice, and they actually use Docker now under the hood to make the stuff spin up. It's like so wild how this system works, but it's sort of an alternative, but it's like a paid CI version thing. I don't even know how much it is per month, but
A lot of GitHub projects use Travis. You build passing tags. And stuff like that.
If you see those badges, that actually like sort of got started with Travis, like the build failing, build passing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you see that generally you'd click on it and go to Travis. Now that's how they got a lot of popularity. Now a lot of other CI services have made like an identical badge, and you can put that badge and it looks exactly the same. It'll take you to the other services build. So like you can use a lot of different things, but Travis is a paid alternative to the Jenkins server that you run yourself. I would imagine the monthly cost is probably about the same as how much time you could put into really getting a Jenkins server going really well. But I don't know, you can't do as many things as you can with Jenkins. Like, you can do anything with Jenkins.
Yeah, you
I
can.
was going to say, at my work, we use both because our actual build and packaging stuff is horribly complex. So we have a bunch of sort of bespoke Jenkins configs that do the actual builds and pushes it to S3 for production. However, every time you open a pull request, two or three sets of Travis tests are running.
Yeah.
So you wait there, you put up your pull request, and then you wait for that box to turn green, and then you give Chet something and say, hey, can you PR?
Yeah, we use Travis to do some of our builds of some Go tools that we have, and things like that, and we drop them on S3. Like, you can do simple stuff like that with Jenkins, or with Travis, but Jenkins, if you want to really do some wild stuff, Jenkins, I guess.
Looking for some easy way to get started with CI. JetBrains TeamCity is free.
Yes.
It's super simple to use.
Yeah.
It's probably as powerful as Jenkins, but it's a whole lot easier to get started.
Yeah.
And unlimited users, 5 projects, free.
Atlassian has a tool for doing builds, but that's like seat licenses and stuff like that. So just depends on what you need. Not one size fits all. All right. Well, I think thank you. I really enjoyed giving the talk. If anybody else has any questions, feel free to hit me up. I also have stickers of the DNS Simple Friends. If you want some little how DNS works stickers. They're really fun. I have them on my laptop if you want to see them. So they're very fun. Behold. So, thank you all very much.